Hello, and welcome to Emerging Grower, a podcast where we will focus on bringing growers and AgTech professionals together to help accelerate conversations between the two fields in the agriculture industry. This podcast is energized by Grand Farm, which is enabling technology to feed the world by facilitating collaboration and innovations solving the world's largest challenges in agriculture technology. My name is Cameron McNabb, and I am a member of the Grand Farm team who is helping facilitate this podcast. Joining us in this month's episode, we have Duane Bernhardson and Harrison Weber discussing the overall needs for the sugarbeet and seed industries. Duane is the Business Development Manager at KWS Innovations and has been with the company for over 30 years. KWS is one of the world's leading plant breeding companies and has been around for over 165 years. Harrison is the Executive Director of the Red River Valley Sugarbeet Growers Association, which represents around 2,500 sugarbeet growers from both North Dakota and Minnesota areas. We hope you enjoy Duane's and Harrison's conversations and you gain greater insight in the world of agriculture.
Same family owns it today that did over 165 years ago. It's exciting now. We have only had two CEOs that weren't family members, and getting kind of having some of that transition back in. So it's pretty cool to have a company that started over 165 years ago, still owned by family, majority owned by family, has a family philosophy about how they run, and started their business in the seed industry. So really started in the sugarbeet seed industry. That's where they started. And I think what is really interesting about that is, any business needs to make money to stay alive. But if people that are involved in the seed industry realize that you just don't turn a new product in 3 years and we're off and running. And with that, it's a 10-year philosophy. So if you're gonna start from scratch and build something new, you got a minimum of 10 years that has to go with that. And so that philosophy, being family owned, having the idea of it takes time to get there. We know we have to make money, but we know more importantly, the most important thing we do is that the farmers, producers that we work with have to be profitable. Mm-hmm. So I think that rolls back all into that family understanding and having an understanding for your customer, knowing that as a farmer, it's a long-term deal.
Yeah.
I chuckle on the thing on, big buzzword is sustainability, and how, so many farmers say sustainability. Well, of course I'm sustainable, because if I'm not sustainable and I can't farm this ground in 3 more years, I'm not here. So that's the point. So, KWS, family-owned company, operate worldwide. Crops, our major crops are corn and sugar beets. Sugar beets is a major part of our business, thus the commitment, the investment in that. And we work to support the brands, that we have, and do what we can to bring not only seed technology, but other technology to the industry as well to help the farmer.
That's what I'm interested in about visiting about some of this, the unknowns, right? So Duane, I think that's a really cool story with KWS. It kind of matches our world in the beet industry, particularly our sugar beet co-ops, right? We're all family-owned co-ops. It's not like you're some big bad corporate seed company here, right? I mean, you're a family-owned business. Same thing with us. We oftentimes hear, big bad sugar, right? And when people learn that, hey, we're actually all co-ops, at least on the beet industry side, beet side, we're all co-ops and we're owned by farmer families or family farms. And then also your point on having that 10-year mentality, at the farm, we're not looking at next quarter's stock earnings report or anything like that. We're looking at the 10-year, the 20-year, the 50-year report, how long we're going to be here and what we can do to survive. So that's awesome that we got some connections there.
Yeah, and I think it's great, like you say, especially it's great for us here in the U.S. because we get to work with co-ops, and all of our worldwide colleagues, I will say, are jealous because what better way to work in the farm industry than truly everybody, it's vertical integration. Everybody owns it all the way through. So so the people that are making the decisions on what has to happen not only have to happen on the farm, but they have to happen in the plant so that sugar that goes in the bag, goes on. And Harrison, that's I think that's an important part as well, is why, people like you and the group that, you represent as far as growers are important for us as well, because, you get the voice of a farmer or a few farmers, but you really need the perspective of the industry as well. So, we take the industry in the valley and you work with the growers here, or, you have whatever, but you get it on the total perspective. And it's the other side of it is, what does our industry need? So as a whole, so if there's a pain point that, that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be identified, not just this year, but what is it going to be?
I think we know that answer. It's bigger tons and more sugar, baby. That's what we need as farmers. Can you do that without losing anything else?
Well, but that's true. But the other side of that is, how can it be done, in a more efficient manner? So how can it be done with not as many trips across the field? I will say one of the biggest things that keeps coming out now is, how do we do it with fewer people? That's a big thing. For me, it's been fun. We have technology that goes in the quality lab that measures the grower samples using near infrared or Beetrometer. And that project, when American Crystal adapted it, was timing couldn't have been better. Sometimes you get lucky, and timing just to help American Crystal out, because COVID came and, they couldn't have all those people working on top of each other, and the workforce wasn't there. So I think it was a really good thing and worked out to help them through, that time. And as well as you're bringing in new technology that helps, and now you find all sorts of other things that can happen with it.
Yeah, different ideas have come because of it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about maybe the history of Sugarbeet tech, Sugarbeet seed tech. Kind of where we were, where we have been, and then maybe where, if you can, where we're kind of going, or what you're seeing where we're going.
So, as a little side note, we did have a little chat, before we started.
It was a practice. It was a prep. No, it was introductions.
Yeah, just waiting. And it's it's true when we talk about it. You talk about it as a kid. I talk about it, when I started in the industry, and seed was still being overplanted at a time because you didn't have seed treatments, didn't have seed processing, didn't have planter technology. There's three big things, right there that were tough. When grower couldn't run his planter more than 3.5 miles an hour because the seed wasn't uniform and it wouldn't plant. I mean, what are growers doing today? So you got a high-speed planter that, hey, look what I can do at 8 miles an hour.
I'm always like, I don't believe it, but I mean, it's like, because you're used to the older stuff or slower stuff or whatever it might be. But
yeah, and I mean, when I started, the first thing, and they still have it, but we had to do planter test stands so that growers would bring in all their planter units and the thousands of units that the guys at NDSU tested and worked with back in the day, just so that could happen. It hasn't gone away, but it's a lot different now than it was back then. The investment, the improvement, things in that nature. So you look at seed technology. We're not planting that starry rough seed anymore. It's pelletized, has a nice color, so you can find it. When I started, we had kind of a brown color.
Do you got a favorite color now for everybody?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's it's fun to think back on that as well. You just don't pick a color. I remember working through getting a bunch of different bags of seed with different color and said, now can you put this in 3 different soil types to see how long it lasts? Those are things, and some of them aren't good, and a grower will tell you that real quick. And so
we've been known to voice our opinion once in a while.
So you try to work through that. But it goes from seed that wasn't processed as much as it is today. Now we have round seed with a good color, and we have seed treatments that can go on. And it's safer for everyone. It's stuff that used to went on volumes greater than that were needed because that was the only way it could be applied. Now we can really manage things on a finer level to help that improvement, to make the farm more efficient and that better crop, get more sugar, more tons. And I think the big thing on saying get more sugar, get more tons, get it more consistently.
Yeah.
Take out those swings from year to year and what happens with that. And then, we bolt ahead to Roundup Ready, to, herbicide tolerance. Now we're working with Truvera, the next trait, which is important to come, because the investment, as we all know, in the sugarbeet industry is not real big as far as products. We run here in the shadows of the corn and soybean industry, and you just don't typically see a lot of things come out of that. I think the other one that's probably more here and now was the CR Plus trait that came out that has helped on Cercospora tolerance. Again, Cercospora has been really bad in some markets, and growers have had to, if you're putting 6-7 trips across the field in the latter part of the season, used to do that for weed control. So now we had to do it for disease control. But to take that factor out, to give the producer a better chance to have a good crop means a lot. The other thing is that the non-farmer person doesn't see is that that tractor's not spraying stuff all the time. Not saying it's bad stuff that's going on, but whenever somebody probably sees a sprayer going, they wonder.
Well, even with the Roundup Ready tech, I mean, before that we were mixing 4, 5, 6 chemicals in, kind of called the witch's brew, and making several passes across the field. And after that event, that biotech, I mean, I don't know, we'd spray like 3 times. It was just significant reduction in total volume of product, and also much safer products.
Well, the other side of that is took away cultivation.
And my summer job of row cultivating.
My summer job was thinning beets, and I don't miss that today. But it's a great story as far as an industry to look at, and I think as we sit and talk about it again, to go back as you talk about sustainability. I mean, what producers in the industry have done to be sustainable for this little industry here in the U.S.
I think that's a message to the non-farmers, right? So we talk about weather, climate, soil health, sustainability, all things encompassing. And, one thing we talk about often is soil movement, right? With that row cultivation. Well, hey, now we have some technology that takes care of that project or that problem. Well, then on the other side of the coin, they're like, wait, we don't want to, we shouldn't be using that. It's like, well, we got to pick and choose here a little bit, guys. We can't, there's always a trade-off to whatever we're going to be using.
Yeah, and that trade-off in the end has to bring value to everyone. I mean, I think that's the other thing. Of course, the farmer producer, at the end of the day, has to be profitable to stay in business, because he has to be profitable to stay in business so he can pay off the loan that he has at the bank, so that he can go to the grocery store and put groceries, buy food and pay his taxes to keep the school district going.
Yeah.
And then haul his grain in, everything else to keep those jobs that are turning there. And that's a part as well. And I think the cool part about ag is it's a big old engine that when you look at it, it touches a lot of people locally. And when you step back and see it, you can see it. It's not like
I think you can definitely feel that, like when if we have a bad year, 2019, something like that, you can feel it. Whether it's you're at a volleyball game at the high school, I mean, just that general demeanor is down, kind of gloomy, and when things are good, everybody's feeling good. You can tell.
Yeah, it truly does. It carries all over, because when the parts dealer at the implement sees people coming in and being able to buy stuff, and he feels good because he knows he's helping them out as well. But when times are tough and you're thinking about, do I make that investment or not? And I got to find a way to keep this thing working. It does. It's another stress level, and that carries over. And I live in Grand Forks, so I live in town. But it is interesting, like you say, how that carries over. And people will, when they find out you're in agriculture, they'll mention that to you. They'll kind of go, I hear things were pretty good this year, huh? And they're like, yeah, I kind of notice it. It's like the restaurant's a little busier.
It's a lot more fun to have smiles on the faces than not.
Yeah. So Harrison, as far as the industry, what do you guys kind of say? Hey, these are the things that we'd like people to be aware of. What we gotta put some focus on to make sure we know.
Yeah, you bet, Duane. Well, I think we're in agriculture and primarily on the farm. We have such a unique business, right? So a lot of business faces various different types of risk. Okay. If you're making widgets, you're really focused on supply chain, and probably just about only supply chain. Labor certainly going there as other things. But as a farmer, we are exposed to, I think, like every risk. Weather, labor, supply chain. In my world as the executive director of the Growers Association, political risk. Okay. All of those things. And what, I would really like people to know is just kind of be aware of that. I mean, you might disagree to the level of different types of risk, but we're at a point in U.S. agriculture where we're facing a ton of risks coming at us from all different types of angles. And then how can we solve some of those risks, or how can we mitigate some of those risks? Seed tech is certainly one of them, and I think industry has done a great job up to this point, and I think industry is doing a great job of investing for the future. I don't want to say you're doing a great job until we're into the future, right? So I can see it, but really, I mean, we're doing those things, and that's great. But just to be aware of some of the risks that we're facing, and not necessarily appreciate them, but just being aware of them. That's one thing I'd like people to take away.
Well, and I think the political side of it is, and I don't want to talk politics, hate talking
election just got done. Let's do a full review here. Okay.
No, but it is. It's, people see, where politics maybe touch them here, touch them there, but as a egg production industry, it's a huge touch, and a huge touch that I don't think is always understood. It comes down to trade deals. Some trade deal can wipe you off the map. So if all of a sudden whoever has the political power says, well, no, we're going to trade with this company, this country, and and we're going to allow this to come in. So there you are, sit as a farmer producer, and now you don't have a market for the crop that you can grow or you can do. So I think that's the side of that. The other side of that is the emotional factor of we're used to, in our industry, feeling that we use science to guide us on what we do, and so that we do that it's right. These universities do a great job at testing things to make sure that this has value for the grower if it's used in this and this and this manner. But then, there's other things that some people don't touch, like we talk about, and now it becomes an emotional thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think your growers should spray their beets. Yeah. They should not do that at all, because that's just not environmentally friendly. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. I mean, some people do feel that way, and they can feel that way, but we got to navigate it in a way that it works for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
and keeps it. And I think that's a huge thing that people don't realize what you do and the time that you spend in it. And even more importantly, I would say, is the work that you do with your members, your growers, because they really carry that load.
Duane, let's talk a little bit about the politics around some of our seed tech, not in terms of emotional or anything like that, but I don't think a lot of people, in farmers realize this, I know that, but a lot of people that aren't in the ag industry don't realize how long it takes to get through the regulatory framework to bring a new product to market, right? When we're out there at the farm screaming at industry, hey, we need this, and you guys might have already been working on it for a long time. CR Plus, I mean, you guys were working on that for 30 years or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, it like I say, I mean, you're going to bring a new variety. You say, a new trait, you're going to put 10 years on that minimum, CR Plus, luckily, is a trait that is, you could say, conventional, so it didn't need regulatory approval. But if you look at it on the other side, part of the challenge with Sakastra is that the fungicides aren't effective, and they aren't available. If you look at weed control, like we talked about with Roundup Ready, there are no new herbicides, because in a 1.1 million acre, who's going to spend tens of hundreds of millions of dollars to go through regulatory approval to get it approved? I mean, we have
to maybe get it approved, right?
No guarantee.
No guarantee.
Just because you identify it works and has the safety package, there may be something in there that doesn't allow it to get approved. And that's where, you sit back and look at it, is that, it's scary as a producer, because what I'm using today might not be available tomorrow. And I got to rely that that regulatory wise, they're making decisions that are smart for me and smart for my customer.
We had some EPA folks out, Duane, on that point this summer to the Sugarbeet fields. And to your point of, okay, I'm using a product today, might not tomorrow. Clopyrifos, Lorsban, right? I mean, a product that is proven safe, it works on Sugarbeet root maggot flies, and now all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm going to pull the plug. And that was been my point or one of my arguments with EPA is like, hey, we need something to bridge us there, until industry can come up with something that's even more safe, that works much better, and that is more cost effective. We need something to bridge us. You can't just pull the chair out from underneath us as farmers.
Yeah, and and it's the hard part of how do you do that? And we have some good partnerships with as we work through with researchers. So say USDA researchers, ARS, there's a pretty good framework where federally they've invested money into research in some of those small areas that it's hard for business to justify making that investment. So they try and identify ways or things that can get some of that basic science done to help things move on and to be able to do that. And like you said, it's a maybe, I mean, it's we're going through it on the Truvera now, we feel good about it, but you have to go through and you spend a lot of time looking at the science and understanding all of the science and everything that's there, so that you make sure that you, as the old saying goes, you dot your I's and cross your T's, and you got to do that, many times over to make sure it's there. But I think sometimes we all feel that comments that can be made in a non-scientific world, all of a sudden they have some credence. we were joking about it, I think one of us said it that, well, I read it on the internet, so if somebody says that's bad, and then all of a sudden that goes, and how much time and effort and manpower do you have to spend to try and dispel that?
Yeah.
Whereas when you do have the facts, the facts don't necessarily pan out or get spread out to those people as well.
Yeah, big time.
And that's, and that's the one thing too that I have to say, as an industry, we really appreciate all the work that the Growers Association does, because what people don't know is that you work to inform the people, not our local people, the people outside of our locality, the time and due diligence you put in to educate them on what it really means to farm. So, when you got that, senator from Philadelphia who doesn't even know that he goes to the grocery store to get his sugar,
right?
Where that came from and what's involved with it, and the risk that's involved for thousands of people because of, the decision he can make, and how you guys go through to put that little package together to make him understand it and, feel proud that he's using the sugar that your guys have produced.
Well, appreciate that, Duane. Let's talk a little bit about the unknown, okay, or at least unknown in my mind and some farmers out there, to the extent that you can share what's on the horizon. If we would have brought a 12-row lifter into the field 30 years ago, I mean, people are like, that's a spaceship, right? I mean, look at this massive piece of equipment. Which now the 12-row is fairly standard between an 8 and a 12. You're looking at the technology on the tractors, the planters, everything. What do you guys got cooking in terms of seed tech or other things? Because you highlighted that a little bit on your intro.
Yeah, so of course, everybody sees the work that we do on. As far as genetic seed technology and the things of that nature. We talked about, CR Pluses came. We talked about Trevera. We're always looking for pest disease resistance, tolerance, traits that can be brought in to provide benefit. You talked about changes in weather. That's another thing is to make sure that we find the best traits that are going to I can bring you a trait that handles drought, but what happens when we get too much rain? Especially here, in the Red River Valley, it can be guaranteed more than likely that it's going to be really wet in July. And there's going to be a drought in the end of August. Yep. I mean, that's almost gimme. So the traits that can really weather that storm to carry you through. I mean, we do a lot of testing in regards to that. We also kind of, I think, step out of the realm that a lot of people don't see or know, currently on that is other technology that may have an application on the farm, may not. I talked about our beet meter. That's the near infrared system that we use to measure beet quality. So how can that be used? It's used in the quality lab at American Crystal for measuring grower samples. How can that technology be expanded, used in other places, ways to save labor, bring more efficiency, produce more sugar? How can that be done? We had did some fun work this year at our location on Grand Farm as we evaluate and work to understand, what can a drone do? I mean, they're out there. You can do things, but it's got to be practical. Yeah. And there's things that
I think that's a big point. I just want to jump in. Like, hey, tech is great, AgTech's great, but if it's not practical for us at the farm level, we're not going there, period. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And sometimes it might be an education piece of like, well, wait a minute, did you think about this type of application? Now, we may not have, and that might be an instance where, hey, we can add value there, but it's got to be practical. So everybody listening out there, tech's awesome, love it, want to use it, but it's got to be practical for us.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I see, and we have a group, we call them our digital accelerator group that they go out and they look at new technology and existing technology, and they look at it to evaluate what aspect of value can it bring to agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Can it bring value to the grower? Can it bring value to the plant breeder? Can it bring value to the industry, the sugar company? So where can that value hit? Where can it land? It's like the drone technology. So it's cool,
Mm-hmm.
Has a cool factor. And of course, the people that have all these different sensors and want it, they show you all the ways that it's going to make you more money. But it was, one of the things we looked at was it wasn't practical, because when you farm 160 acres of beets and it takes 3 batteries to fly your drone and it's going to take, an hour to make that flight, and then you got to upload that flight, and then you got to make decisions,
And then you got to know how to do it. You got to know how to fly it, right?
yeah, and have the license, all of that. And then in the end, what did the grower want to know? Do I need to replant today or not?
Yeah.
And so making advancements, but we're trying to look at those things so that every grower doesn't have to make, try and make that. And how can we partner as well with the, university people and to look at that technology? We're looking at ways that it's easier, faster, more efficient to detect disease. So how can I look at my disease problems and know today that it's going to be a problem in a week? Not currently how in a week it is a problem and I figure it out the week after that, So how can I do that to be, and I don't want to say proactive.
Or if we're seeing Cercospora, it's too late already.
Right.
There's a great example.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So how can I do it? And how can I do it? We talk about this labor piece. How can I do it? Because there aren't a lot of trained professionals out there.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I do it to help bridge that gap, to help, the person who can go out there and look at it, say, that is Cercospora,
Mm-hmm.
or no, that's not, that,
Mm-hmm.
that's bacterial blight, or whatever. So how can I do it? So trying to look at, we spend, I think we had, just locally at least 5 or 6 projects that we're looking at stuff like that. Had one last fall that I looked at a project, and it goes right to what you say. It's cool technology, and they're showing you how it can work. And then you do it, and you go, kinda, but it doesn't fit here.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work here. And the people that we have out there are really efficient in what they do, and they do a good job. Our problem is there's just not enough of them.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we bridge that gap? How can we do it? And that's really what our group is working at, looking at, and how can we bring it forward? Innovative ways in weed control and crop scouting, things of that nature.
Do you guys look at KWS? Do you look at AI? I mean, so there's some companies out there that are doing automated weeding, right? Do you guys look at that as an opportunity in your guys' business? Or
we had I know we had a project in Europe this past year as looking at robotic weeding. Probably, and where it has its real foothold in Europe is they have organic beet production.
Mm.
So obviously, I would say you need it there. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, was kind of looking at it. You just try to figure out, it's the same thing,
have you seen some of the water hemp here? We need it.
But the problem is I got 600 acres of beets,
Mm-hmm.
and this thing can do 20 acres a day.
Yeah.
So that, that's where it is. And we really work hard to not only just find the technology, but work with the providers to understand what it takes for it to work. So, if you're going to cover, people don't realize what egg production is here. So you say, if you're a grower in the Red River Valley, you have to be able to do whatever function you do in 10 days or less.
Yep.
You have to be able to plant your crop in 10 days or less. in the end, you have to be able to harvest your crop in 10 days or less. Doesn't matter which crop really it is, but that's the window. There's some, that you can stretch that out. But when it comes to spraying, I can't do it in 10 days.
Right.
I probably got to spray my crop in 4 days, and people have a hard time with that because if you get into, say, more irrigated areas, they have more time.
Right.
That weather factor isn't there. But when you're in the Midwest, and especially in the Red River Valley, those opportunities are short. I mean,
our opportunity is so short here, and that's one thing that does drive me nuts sometimes with a lot of like ideas, tech. It's awesome, it's cool. Hey, but what about when it doesn't work? Now what? Right? It's 2 a.m. and it's started to rain, and something was supposed to be driving itself and it's not, and I can't fix it. I mean, what,
and not only can you not fix it, but there's not that much support out there to be able to,
or it might be like, well, 3 or 4 days. I don't have 3 or 4 days. Okay. Like,
yeah. When you brought up supply chain, that was the thing that I have to say has been a real sore spot. Just one, as I'm trying to build things, we build a lot of prototypes, try to tech things out. And I always say, so whenever I work with anyone, they say, okay, when do we need to test it? I said, we get one window once a year. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, just like Christmas, harvest comes but once a year. So we have that shot and we have to be ready to do it in that window. And how long a window is that? No, it's 10 days. And that scares a lot of people off. But the people that are in it, they understand.
I'm loving that. I'm like, yes, all right, somebody gets it. Sweet.
So, when they're in it and they find, and then they see the value of it, it's like, oh, wow. I mean, so when things are a game changer, they're a game changer. It's just harder to do it because you brought up that widget, example in the beginning. We're not building widgets. Well, most of the world in technology is used to looking at widget production. When I went to my ag econ class, what did we talk about? Building widgets. It's like, and sure, maybe we build a widget, but it's a much different widget, and it's not every widget is the same. So that's that's that side of it as well. So
I think the other, I just want one more thing before we close up on that is like always having an appreciation or understanding or knowing that whatever tech advancements come out, that we have got to be able to, I don't know how we do this, and farmers are really innovative and able to learn extremely quickly, but making sure that we can still fix it when we're underneath the lifter at 2 a.m. or we're doing, I don't know, whatever it is, pick your poison. We just have to be able to fix it on our terms so we can get it done, get the job done at the end of the day, because that's our goal. So I think that's just one piece for everybody to always have in mind. And this kind of starts getting into some other gray areas, but making sure that we have at least the ability to fix it. I mean, that there's a reset button, or there's an override, if you will, that like, hey, I know what, let's just use a motor, for example. Okay, I know I've been leaking oil on this. I know it's low, but I'm going to take that risk to finish out this quarter or whatever it might be. And that example can be put to any piece of the equipment or any machine or any technology. Like, let us calculate that risk a little bit of, I know I'm pushing this thing to the limits, but I need to get this job done because the rain's coming in 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever it might be.
Well, and I think any good technology provider is probably only going to should only sell you 60%. I mean, I need, what I'm going to tell you it will do is 60%. There's an engineering term of how you calculate that in. And, if I'm going to sell you a beam and I tell you that beam can hold, 1,000 pounds, I really know it can hold 2,000 because I know you're going to push it, but I'm going to tell you.
We might.
But I think that, and that probably is one of the really hard things, again, going back to some of these people trying to bring technologies, they don't understand that, because, they're on the other side. They're probably a small startup that's trying to try,
Yep.
trying to get going, and they need revenue. But you can't,
You can't sacrifice that for the end product,
Right.
Which is what we're going to use, right?
Right.
Or you're
Yep.
trying to get us to use.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. And you have to be able to, it has to be designed in a way that is user friendly. And like you said, if something goes wrong, I can swap that out. And you're probably going to tell me, if you're good, what part I probably have to rely on.
Mm-hmm.
Then I make the decision whether I need to keep that extra motor or need to keep that switch or that sensor, whatever it is, that I need to keep one on hand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's probably one of the greatest attributes of growers in our area is they, like you say, they understand what it takes. So beet harvest is coming, and I know that potentially I'm going to replace one gearbox in my rotobeater. I could burn, if it looks like it's wet, I'm going to burn through at least 2 or 3 sets of belts on my harvester. I've made a decision on my scrub chain that it's going to make it, but I know that I'm going to have to replace my bed chain. And I want to take the risk because if it's not a real dry year, I can make it another year. But all those parts are sitting either in a trailer at the end of the field or in my shop.
I'm laughing right now because I'm like, I know guys that have enough parts on hand to build a whole new lifter pretty much.
Yeah, but they have to, because if they're, they can't. This supply chain thing that was starting earlier is that people don't understand. I think it was not this last harvest, but a year ago, guy had a truck breakdown, loaded during pre-pile. He didn't get the part till after harvest was done, so you can't operate that way, and as a supplier, you can't expect, people to operate that way. We're in some unique times now as far as what it is, and people are really working to find their way through it. I mean, we deal with it on whether it's seed treatments or material or whatever. You really have to learn to what it, you have to take that risk, because when that grower is ready to plant, what does he need? He needs the seed in a box ready to go in his planter.
Mm-hmm.
He needs that. So it's our responsibility to work through that and make sure that he has that. And it's interesting as listen to, our people that deal with that and how things have really changed. We are no longer in the business of just in time. That's not a thing. Now you probably plan to have 1.5 times the amount of what you need, so that you should have what you need when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'd say that's the thing as well with as we look at technology, as we look at things that, hopefully have a value on the farm, is that it has to be just like you say. We listen to you as far as what the needs are and how it is, and finding the way to deliver it in regards to that. So
how about listening to us on the cost?
Well, I think we do, and I feel that that we have, and we view it as as a partnership. I always say, that's my feeling. Anybody that I work with, if I want to work with you as a partner, not as a supplier. Not as a worst thing you could be called is a vendor. If you're a vendor, you're
see ya.
Well, if you're a vendor, then you're just, whether it's like going to the 3 gas stations in the corner and which one is 1 cent cheaper. We want to be a partner, and that's what we want in the industry, because as a partner, you understand as well that we have to be in business to stay in business.
Absolutely. You guys got to make a profit to stay in business, to keep supplying us whatever you guys are working on for our benefit in the future.
And I think one part of that gets forgotten about is, so it takes 10 years. So in 10 years, we're going to have something new that
we should write down this conversation and come back in 10 years and see what new thing he was talking about. Write it down, mark it, check the tapes.
So in 10 years, we're going to come with something new, and that will be of value to the industry. And that thing was not paid for when that product was sold on the market.
Right.
You know, that wasn't. So like I talked about, as a business, you have to roll that, just, you know, like any farmer. And that's the focus, you know, that you try to work is you continuing to bring value. And when it's value, it's value all the way around. And it's a huge deal in our company to talk about. In the end, does it bring your industry value?
Right.
Can bring, just like you said in technology, it can bring you something cool, but does it bring you value? And where, you know, how do we help identify that value? Yeah, sometimes it's cost, other times it's efficiency, other times it's higher, you know, higher production. So that can help kind of weather that through. So
yeah. I appreciate that. So just had to throw it in there.
Yeah, no.
Representing all the growers out there.
No,
so.
Well, and it's true. And this goes back to, you know, like like I was talking about when you guys, you know, go out as an industry to, and I don't like the word lobby. I don't think that's the right word. Yeah, it's educate and inform. So when you go out and inform political, you know, people that are in the political realm, you're working to inform them on what it takes to do what it is. And, you know, you don't do it just because you love it. I mean, you have to love it, but you have to be able to survive. You know, I think that's the other side of that. So business is business, and you got to be fair about, you know, what you do.
When we're out there visiting, just to soften this a little bit, we do bring, you know, organizations like KWS up and say, hey, this is expensive for them to do. And, you know, we're customers of theirs and we're all in this together. So just to soften it a little bit.
And we know
we're using you guys as a good example.
Yeah,
so.
No, and we know and we appreciate that because, you know, you guys know better than anyone else. It's really expensive to push something through the channels that it has to go through, you know. So a lot of money is invested, and you said it's invested on a maybe. You know, you hope that you have, you know, and hope's not a good word. You work to take all those, you know, variables out and pull it out. But that's the other hard part about it. Those are the hard business decisions that have to be made, because maybe there is something that's really good, but how much risk do you take to bring that through?
Go after it.
Yeah. I think, you know, as a company, I feel really good about the job that we've been able to do in regards to that. You know, we have huge support, you know, whether it goes through the breeding group, goes through product management, goes through finance, goes through, you know, legal. It has to go through all of that and make sure that it's going to bring everybody value in the end. And sometimes, you know, maybe people say, well, let's push it, you know, let's push it for another year or two and see where it goes, so that, you know, and it's like somebody in finance could say, well, that's costing us X amount of dollars. And the answer is, I understand that, but, you know, you're going to tell the grower that, oh, we didn't want to spend that extra dollar because we weren't quite sure whether it did, when it could be the thing that helps them stay in business. I mean, so I really feel good as far as KWS and being willing to look at those things and make those kind of decisions too.
Awesome. Last question for you. What are you doing next year, October 1st to October 10th? Do you want to drive Beet truck?
Unfortunately, if I did, I gave that up.
All right.
I gave that up. I shouldn't say full time. I gave that up 30 years ago when I made this start. So
we need truck drivers. Anybody listening? We need truck drivers for Beet.
So yeah, unfortunately, I had to give that up. I used to would pinch hit once in a while to help some family. It
got so bad that my uncle threw me in a truck this year. He's like, "Oh, you go figure it out." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Now my about the support that I can give is my son, has helps a friend, a kind of a coworker, and I'll take care of the dog for him.
There you
know,
go.
so
Yeah.
it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
So I do have maybe a question for you, Harrison.
Okay.
So share with me how you got to where you are in your position today.
You bet.
So where did I know as far as your family, I'm familiar with that, but sure. Tell me a little more about where you came, how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. So, grew up helping at my uncle's farm, Todd Weber, and now my cousin Griffin. They're farming together out by the big town of Chaffee, North Dakota, growing metropolis. Can't find a place in town; it's just packed. Grew up helping Uncle Todd there at his place, and then went to Valley City State, played some college hoops there, and decided wasn't going to be back at the farm. And so kind of was like, well, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And went up to University of North Dakota and got a law degree, and went there never wanting to be an attorney, but more of like, oh, we should just go try it. And it was funny because I took the LSAT and I was like, well, I'll take it, see if I'm good enough to get in. And then I got in, and then me and my dad were having a conversation about this, that, well, you just go up there for like 2 weeks, just try it. I'm like, okay, I'll just try it for 2 weeks. And then it was 6 months, and it was, oh, finish the semester, you finish another year. And then 3 years was passed, and in my last semester, I actually worked for the North Dakota Senate Ag Committee as kind of a clerk, legal clerk for them, nonpartisan. So I would research what other states were doing on an ag policy issue, and saw some of the commodity groups come in there, and thought that was pretty neat, that these individuals could still find and help farmers with their talents and stuff like that. And then I worked in the soybean checkoff in the Minnesota side, and then came over to the North Dakota side, did biodiesel, market development, things like that, worked with trade teams. And then the Sugarbeet job opened up and landed in sugar. So I've been there now 3 years, and been awesome, great group of guys. It's fun to have a good board of directors that are fantastic individuals, very thoughtful. They're always thinking, how can they get better? How can they adapt? What or adopt and adapt? What do they need to do to keep being sustainable on their own farm, right? How can they continue to survive and thrive? And so, yeah, that's kind of the story. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, I guess. So.
No, it's good. It's cool. I think not that we have a lot of young people that are probably maybe going to listen to us, other than a few here, but I think it's number one. Thank you. It's great to have you as in your position on Growers Association, but I think the other side of it goes to kind of show that ag connection, and how there's a lot of people that say, yeah, I don't want to do that, or I want to go into that, and had a few discussions with friends about how many people are actually doing what they graduated from in college.
I bet not many.
But I'll guarantee you a lot of what they went to college is helping them through with what they're doing today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not going to let you off the hook then if you're going to ask me that. So give us the deets.
Give us the beets.
Deets, not beets. I should have said beets. I missed opportunity there. Missed opportunity.
So I grew up in Moorhead. My dad was a county agent. Both sides of the family farmed. One had beets, one didn't. Actually, my family goes way back. We still have our log cabin that our family was one of the first that settled down by Comstock. So family's been here a long time. I'd say one of my dad's early histories is when he got to take a team of horses with a load of beets to town, and he was scared because all those other guys that were driving teams back then. But and the family, part of our family, can say, kind of still farms there. I grew up wanting to be in agriculture, thought I was going to be a banker. Did ag econ at NDSU. Graduated from NDSU, wasn't really sure maybe where I wanted to go, and I sold cars for a few years. Got the experience of what it took to live on commission and make relationships. And in doing that, I was asked to be said, hey, you're interested in agriculture. Why don't you join the FM Chamber's Agribusiness Committee? And I enjoyed that because got to be around other ag people while I wasn't in the industry. And lo and behold, one day, a guy came over and said, you know what? We're looking for somebody that has ag experience with sales. And we have a lot of guys that have agronomy degrees, but not many that have, sales experience. Would you be interested? And so 30 years ago, I started selling beet seed, and here I am today.
Yeah, still here. Point is, hey, there's other avenues than just being a farmer, right?
Absolutely. No, and fortunate today because I have one son that's a crop consultant. So he grew up in town, me dealing in that, and found his inspiration in that. Has been consulting for years. And it's kind of funny. My other two boys are engineers, and they both currently are working at Case. And I would say they kind of have that pride to it as well because they're working in.
Couldn't one go to like John Deere and one to Case or something? Like split it up a little bit.
One's still in college, so we don't know.
Right.
Never know where it ends up. But I think getting that you can't. Once you get that little bit of egg in you, and you're able to taste it every day, I think it's tough to get it out, and that's a good thing. Yeah. So that's what keeps our industry churning.
Are you excited for the future of sugar beets?
I am. I think as far as an industry, it's a great industry. People talk about how small it is or whatnot. That's the great part about it. Yeah. I get to work with producers all across the U.S. As well as I get, being our parent company German, I get that little international touch to it as well. Couldn't be a more progressive, receptive group of people. When you, like I said, when you want to deal with something, you deal with it as a partner, and together you come up with what the solution is or needs to be. And sometimes those things aren't they aren't fun. They're hard discussions, but in the end, we know where everybody needs to be, and we work together to get there. And that I think can't say enough about the industry. And you guys truly are a big backbone to that because you hold all that together and keep things marching forward, so that we make sure that we are here in another 10 years and talking about what the technology is today.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you guys keep raising and making the seed for us, and we'll keep growing them, okay? We'll keep putting them in the ground.
That's all we want.
All right. It's a good partnership.
You bet.
All right, Duane, this has been fun. Good to meet you. And I feel like we're like DJ.
And that will do it for this month's episode of Emerging Grower.
All right.
We thank Duane and Harrison for being on this month's episode. We also want to thank Grand Farm for energizing this podcast, along with all of the Grand Farm partners. To learn more about Grand Farm, you can visit the website, which is www.grandfarm.com. You can expect new Emerging Grower episodes to release in the third week of each month on all audio platforms. We hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for tuning in.